Okay, let's go ahead and get into the stock market technical analysis. We'll just look at the broad market, some individual trade ideas, go ahead and wrap up. Please drop me a thumbs up if you're finding value in the content. Feel free to check out the private member group. Link in the description below on that. I'm putting out lots of trade ideas in that group. Take the ones you like, ignore the ones you don't. But again, link in the description for that. And I will be doing a live stream tomorrow morning Pacific time, about noon, 12:15 East Coast time. All right, so let's get into it. Triple Qs. We have no real sell signals. There's no candlesticks that are telling us that we are breaking down. We're at all-time new highs. We have really, there's really no trade here on Triple Qs. I don't see a short. Now I'm looking at the daily chart, so this is kind of swing trading stuff. But we don't have any real indication that that there's a short here. So again, this one continues to climb higher. We don't there's nothing really to go long against with new money right here. I mean, if you're long already, then I think you can trail your stops because there's no indication on where this goes to. But there's, again, nothing to short against. So the only trade I believe would be if you're long already to trail stops. All right. I don't think it makes sense to put new money to work at current levels. If you do, you're just chasing. But in general, that's what I got on Triple Qs. I just don't have anything else. Let's look at the futures real quick. Definitely want to take a look at these futures for the NASDAQ. The futures are, kind of the same thing. Let's check these divergences. We've had we're just barely hanging on to the divergences right now. These would really have to start to turn down pretty much very soon. The PPO is equal. It's still a divergent high. It's just barely there. So again, the negative divergences that have been in place for quite a while, we're just barely hanging on to those. Looks like we're at like equal highs. So what you'd want to see is, in order for the divergences to remain intact. Now again, divergence doesn't tell us to just short. So it just gives us a condition that, okay, there's potentially a short trade here. But again, we need that sell signal. And so we need to see like a break of this trend line right here on the daily chart for the futures. And we need to see that relatively soon for these divergences to remain intact. So that's it on the NASDAQ. The S&P 500, it looks a little different because, again, most of the price action in the indices has been led by basically NVIDIA, and because it's so heavily weighted. And right now it's NVIDIA and Apple are kind of doing the pushing. And that's it. And then the other fangs aren't really selling off. So that's where most of the upside's coming from, because the majority of stocks actually are down in bear markets. But it's just those heavily weighted ones are rallying, and they're leading. They're forcing the indices to go higher because of the weighting that they have in those indices. Now the SPY, you can see we still have negative divergence. It's still there. It's just barely there, but it's clearly there a lot more than the NASDAQ. You can see here, it's right there. So we're just extending that divergence. The RSI starting to turn down. We need to confirm. But again, divergence doesn't tell me to short. I need to see sell signals. I need to see a break of trend, bearish engulfing candles, something that tells me that the top is in. So for this one, I think it's this support line right here on the daily. We need to see that break to give us the next sell signal. And we don't have it. So same kind of thing with the SPY. I think if you're long, you trail stops, and that's the only trade to be made on the broad indices. Now the small caps, they look completely different. They are, which is also interesting because they're down today. You see the small caps, they're down, and we'll take a look at interest rates. Small caps are typically very interest rate sensitive because these stocks are usually small companies. They're not as profitable and cash flow positive as the large tech companies. So they have to borrow money, and they need cheap and easy money to thrive. And you can see on the small caps IWM, look at the daily. Clearly, we're not even, we haven't even taken out the all-time highs. The all-time highs were put in back in November of 2021, and we're below those. So multi-years, we've been lower. And this one recently is building negative divergence here on the RSI and the PPO. And, these are new divergent highs. Now, we could pop up and make a new divergent high. That's possible. I don't necessarily see a sell signal. There is some support right about there, I believe. So maybe we're breaking support. We'll see how we close the day. This isn't super impulsive, but we'll see how we close the day there. And if they want to, continue to sell off, that could be a sell signal, which would very likely bring us down to the 200-day simple moving average, about 192-ish. And that would be also that reaction low. Right in there would be our next level of support. Okay, so that's what I got on the small caps. Gold. So this is gold futures. We had an uptrend line. Looks like the contract adjusted. But there's the uptrend line. We broke that trend, and to me, it looks like we're making a series of lower highs and lower lows. So in the short term, I think we're still correcting in gold. We have momentum moving lower, and we have price moving lower. So that's our last we're just coming off a divergent high, and we broke that trend line support. So I believe there's some more downside in gold. And then the miners, GDX, you can see same kind of thing. Here's your uptrend line, broke trend right there. So that's essentially your sell signal, back tested within the next few days and continuing to move lower. So this still to me looks like a sell to rip market here in the gold sector. And I think we're heading lower. Next level support, you can see some support right down here, about 32.38. And there is on GDX this trend line, all right? There's a couple reactions there. We could come in for a back test, all right, down here. It's objective to go long right down there if you do that back test, the 200 days down there, and that's decent support. So that would be the next. That would be a very objective long. It's objective to go long here at 32.35, and it's objective to go long down there around $30 on that back test. Oil, this is USO. The last couple weeks in oil have been strong with a rally there off this trend line. It's up about 9%, I think, in this 2-week period. Yeah, 8.5. Oil looks like it's trending upward. So if I roll out, you can see support. A little choppy through there, but in general, still held. Lots of reactions through here, held again there, and held again there. So that's my trend line. Oil moving higher. So that should be negative over the trend for the inflation trade, because as oil moves up, those CPI readings that we get, that the market has been pricing in inflation dropping, will continue to surprise to the upside because of the uptrending oil. So what you want to see, if you believe that inflation's not a problem, then what you'd want to see is oil fall. All right. If you believe inflation is a problem, then you'd be looking for oil to continue to follow the uptrend, which is where I'm standing. I think oil, you have a little 0.1% dip over the last month or so, but in general, that reading probably came out at the end of the month, I believe, which at the end of the month, if you look back here on May 31st, that's where oil was at. All right. Since then, we've rallied 8-9%. So if we continue to hold up and go into the end of the month for June, then those CPI readings should be higher than expected, I would think. So oil is continuing to trend higher until that changes. This is a buy the dip market. So a couple trade ideas. Oh, actually, I want to look at the bonds. So here's the TLT. You can see that interest rates are falling, at least on the longer end of the curve. This is, they're buying bonds, all right, which means interest rates are dropping. Now, in the short term, the market seems to be taking that as a good sign. But in the long term, this is institutions most likely moving the markets. Buying bonds. Institutions typically go to bonds when they feel that when there's risk in the stock market. So this is what seems to be the institutional traders front running a potential drop in the markets. We'll see if that actually plays out. But interest rates are dropping, and on the long end of the curve. Okay, so moving on. Okay, individual trade ideas that I'm not going to go through all of them that I cover in the private member group, but I'll go through some. GM, so this one popped in the last couple days. This is resistance. It's about 46. All right, you can see all the reactions. This was a trading range. All right, and they popped it right there. That's a breakout. As of right now, this is a back test. All right, so that's support. That's where the buyer should be stepping in to buy this stock. So that is, again, that's support. Until that support breaks, that is the area where you should be going long. There is negative divergence here, so you can see the momentum is continuing to drop. This was a divergent high, so I put a good decent odds that this does fail and we actually head down. But as I stated in the private member group today when we were right there, I figured they'd probably at least buy it today. And so far, that's what's happening. They've been buying it up today. So maybe a day or two, they kind of try to hold this above here. But I do think it's going to fail in the long term. Until it does, though, because again, divergence is not a sell signal. It just tells me good probability this fails. So I'm looking for that failure, that break of 46 for the sell signal on GM. Wheat. Okay, so wheat is kind of interesting. You can see it looks to me, this right here, it kind of looks like a flag, like a bear flag. You can push down, flag out, and then continue lower. There is a potential uptrend line, but it's only potential. I have 1 data point, 2 data points. I need at least 3 to validate that as a trend line. So I have it marked out. I'm not going to be buying at that trend line or anything like that, anticipating that it is support. I need to see it react to validate that trend line. But as of right now, I mean, we're starting to break down through the 200-day moving average. So we'll see how we close. You get a close below the 200, could mean it's going to push down to this potential trend line. There's also some horizontal support right in there at about 551. So that's the area where I'd be looking for some support. It's not too much lower. And yeah, that's it. I mean, it's about 3% down, more downside. And then I do think this one is by the dip. I thought it would hold here at this, about this 570 area, but not so far. We're kind of starting to drop. So maybe a little more downside on that one. So as such, with like the ag input stocks like NTR, you can see this one's also come down quite a bit. There is a big solid support line on the daily chart. You can see, look, support, 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 support. Lots of reactions on this one. Some more right through here, then a back test. So that is the buy zone. So we're pretty close. I mean, when you get really close to a buy zone, you might want to step in early, in my opinion, because the buyers, obviously, we can all see that as a very strong and clear trend line. So the buyers might step in early there on that one, or could backtest for a little while. From where we're at now down to the trend line, it's about 3 to 4%, depending on how long it wants to trade down there. So that's kind of the risk. If you were going to go long, you've got that. And then the upside would be, probably a bounce to this next resistance level, which is about 69. And that would be a move up of about 35% or so. So as a swing trade, it's pretty favorable. But again, could backtest for a little while. Meta, there's not a whole lot of change this week on Meta. It's just kind of been grinding around. But again, this is the area of resistance and the stop. All right, if it gets up to here, a 531-ish, and a daily close above there, that would be where you'd want to stop out if you're short. All right, it doesn't make sense that this thing shouldn't be up there. So if it is, then it's likely going to pop and continue to make new highs. Otherwise, and that would negate this as a island cluster top. All right, but as of right now, it's still okay. This is still treated as a top, and we're just basically trading into what seems to be the resistance area. So I am looking for some downside here in Meta. I'm just kind of waiting for it. Probably it's obviously not going to come this week. Maybe we gap down on Monday, but I need to see some sort of breakdown in price, and that's what I'm looking for. And I'll give you one brand new trade idea. This is PGR, Progressive. Again, I pointed this out in the private member group, and I pointed out several others, but we'll give you guys this one. Support. Okay. I have negative divergence. All right. So these highs are divergent highs, telling me look for the downside and look for the sell signal. And there's your sell signal, break of support right there. Break today, back test resistance again, okay? And they've been selling it. So the sellers are here in this stock. You sold, they bought it up into resistance, the sellers stepped back in and pushed it back down. Now I have some support. The first level of support's right here. It's about 202. Okay, and then you break that, you should head down to what looks to be about 193.60. Okay, you likely get a bounce there. And then you break that, and I don't have a whole lot of support. Maybe a little level right in here at about couple reactions, about 188. And then you got the 200 days. So I do believe this one has just started a downtrend. And if we, you can kind of, we're making lower highs and lower lows. Well, actually, we haven't made lower lows yet. We're making lower highs. We need to take out this first level of support, about 202, for the next sell signal to help confirm. But it looks like it started a downtrend. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and wrap up there. Drop me a thumbs up on your way out. I'll catch you guys on the next one.